Okay, we're going to get started on hemp's role in modern agriculture. And with us, we have Lucas Evans, who is the founder and CEO of E3 Industries and Bluebonnet Bioscience. He's a seventh-generation Texan environmental scientist with a knack for solving big problems. He's currently focused on industrial agriculture and introducing a new commodity, industrial hemp, while developing new avenues for American farmers to sell the products, namely bio-based housing and construction materials. Alongside him, we have David Russell. For 32 years, he's served in senior level management and leadership positions focused on building strategic relationships, business development, and corporate strategy. He's the president of CannaVision, Inc., and he's also created several nonprofit companies to create jobs and provide housing. Most recently, he created I Write Motion Foundation to give positive outdoor experiences to people with disabilities. Alongside him, we have Mr. Serg Salinas, the Senior Vice President of Agriculture at Panda Biotech. He's responsible for producer relations, feedstock supply, shipping, logistics, as well as the integration of digital capabilities across all aspects of the company's business. He has extensive experience in project management, marketing, and digital media in the fields of agriculture, construction, distilled spirits, entertainment, merchandise, and publishing. And he attended Texas A&I University, where he was a farm and ranch management major with an animal science minor. Moderating this panel will be Mr. Morris Beegle. He's the president of WAFBA, We Are for Better Alternatives, and as well as many other organizations. You might know him from NOCO Hemp Expo, the media platform Let's Talk Hemp. He's founder of Experience Hemp, Silver Mountain Hemp Guitars, one of the coolest things you do, Morris. Well, I mean, they're all cool, but I really love that one. Tree-free hemp paper and printing, as well as One Planet Hemp. So well qualified to moderate this panel, and I'll turn it over to y'all to get this conversation started.
Oh, wow, my phone's ringing here. We don't want that. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? And there's been some really, really interesting conversations going on here so far. We're going to take a little detour into the hemp world from where we were with Sid and all the other stuff that's been going on with water and conservation and so forth. Let's give a big hand to Leah for emceeing this room. She does a great job. And I was fortunate to have her MC at NOCO Hemp Expo and Southern Hemp Expo a couple of times. So it's always good to share the stage with you, Leah. Doing an awesome job. My name's Morris Beegle. Like she said, I am the founder of WAFBA, We Are for Better Alternatives. We're an umbrella of companies, entities. I produce NOCO Hemp Expo. I've done tons of trade shows and conferences and symposiums over the last 12 years since hemp has really come into the spotlight here in the United States. And looking forward to talk about hemp's role in modern agriculture. What I'd like to start off with is to let each of these guys kind of give a short synopsis of what they're doing right now, just to get a feel of who's here on stage outside of what Leah introduced. So why don't you, Lucas, grab that microphone and just give a little update as to what you're doing right now
Great.
in the marketplace.
Yep. What's going on? Lucas Evans, E3 Industries is kind of the umbrella. E3 Agriculture is focused on primarily hemp right now. I grew up farming outside of Austin, Hutto, Taylor area, Williamson County, and we were looking for an alternative to basically corn, cotton, wheat, which is now all corn in the area. Taylor, Texas specifically was the largest inland cotton market in the world at one point. That's now all but gone, and so I started working on hemp about 5 years ago, spent some time in Europe looking at their systems of doing that and then trying to adopt that here in America. And so right now we're pretty vertically integrated. We get seeds, grow them, process them, and then turn them into houses is really the bread and butter. We also do grain, so seed to shelter is really our big deal. And then we really help a lot of people in the textile industry, and we work with Serg and both David really to just kind of put together the supply chain so that people and customers and companies can get what they need, how they need it, when they need it. We're looking to expand our operations actually into the Taylor Cotton Gin or the Williamson County Cotton Gin in Taylor over the next couple months. And so I encourage anybody to come out, see what we're doing. Find me after this. It's some really cool stuff. but there's just a mountain of work that needs to be done, and we need really smart people working on it. So we work with all the universities, and yeah, I'm just kind of a radical environmentalist from Texas. So,
Serg, why don't you share what's going on with you and Panda Biotech?
Yeah, well, first I gotta say, Taylor, Texas was the last time that I ever had my last bull ride. In Taylor, yeah. I learned that I was a better brush cowboy than a rodeo cowboy. Panda Biotech, we are a processing facility, an industrial hemp processing facility. We're located in Wichita Falls, Texas. That's North Texas. It's probably about 3 hours from here. We process for textiles, for hurd. We use every part of the plant, fiber, hurd, and we capture the dust. So the products that we produce are textile grade fiber. We have hurd. We have a short fiber hurd mix, and then every bit of dust that goes through that facility is captured, and then it's pelletized. So, that could be transported to people who are trying to replace plastics, chicken feed, whatever they want to, whatever it's used for. Right now, we're kind of coming out of our planting season. Our goal, last year we planted 12,000 acres of industrial hemp, and we harvested 8,700. I wish I could have harvested it all, but we ran into some things that were not our fault. So anyway, this year we're targeted for 15,000 acres. We're already probably at 13.5. I had a little over 14. I lost 1,000 for reasons that I can't discuss. So we started planting in February of the 28th of February. And all of our plants, our fields have already got great emergence. So I'm trying to fill in that gap of that 1,000 acres with irrigated. So the target is 15,000 acres by the end of the year, and looks like we're going to hit it. So yeah, and if any guys ever want to visit, just give one of us a call. We'll make a point to get somebody to give you a tour. It's open for business. It has been for the last year, and that's where we are.
Quick question. Are you just using Texas farmers, or you got people in Oklahoma, Missouri, Colorado?
I'd love to just use Texas farmers, but we have, we're right on the Texas-Oklahoma state line. So we try to use farmers that are within 250 to 300 mile radius of our facility. So and that's what makes sense. So we have, right now, we have Texas farmers, Oklahoma, Colorado, Southeast Colorado, and Kansas farmers.
Great, thanks. David?
All right, hello. David Russell, president of CannaVision. We are a multi-state organization, so we've got a license in Puerto Rico, Texas, and looking at Florida next. And so we started off as farming, and a few years ago we made the decision to move into what I'd like to call a very good puzzle piece to the previous group that was here on the processing side. So we realized that that was a missing piece, a missing glue for our farmers, because if you look back at the numbers, you'll see there were several farmers, Sid included, that went out and grew and then went, wait a minute, what do we do with it now that it's grown? And so we raised our hand and said, we want to be one of those pieces to help give farmers confidence in growing a crop, moving it into their rotation, and having a place here in Texas to grow or to process the material.
Well, that leads right into our first question, which is, where does industrial hemp currently stand within the broader agricultural landscape, and what needs to happen for industrial hemp to become a staple rotational crop? Yeah, why don't you go ahead, and since you started on that.
Perfect. Well, we feel like, I mean, it's in the title, right? It's hemp's role in modern agriculture. And so part of answering that question is you need the next step and fulfilling processing. And one of the great steps about just having a processing company is not just having a processing company, but being able to work with other processors within the region, within the country, to help for the offtake. And I can dive into that deeper, but when we see items like sustainable processors, right? We all have to be what are we processing? And that goes down into the role of it is helping educate the farmer in growing. And then that goes into growing techniques. So there's a lot of key details that are in place that we think will help move hemp forward and be a huge success in modern agriculture. So that education, giving back to the farmer, so not only do they know what they're doing, they're going to see an offtake for their hard work.
I agree with that. I think the first thing we've got to do, and we've already been doing it, but it's finding the right variety that's going to grow in the area. That's number one. And or whatever area you're in, what's going to grow in Montana may not grow down here. And we've done, along with Texas A&M AgriLife, a lot of research. I'm sure you've worked with them as well, to find out which varieties are going to grow, which ones grow well, which ones just don't grow at all. So we have a variety that does grow well. So it's finding the right seed. It's like you said, educating the farmers, and they're not farmers are smart people, but we have a commodity here, a crop here that hasn't been grown in 90 years. So the people that grew it in their families are gone now, if they grew it at all. So we've got to educate them and let them know what it is, what it's about, and only all knowledge is just going to lead to better yields and less risk. So, and then also you touched on infrastructure, processors. We have a processing facility, but we can't bring it all in from all over the world. It doesn't make sense. Outside of 300 miles, the economics don't work. So we need more processors. We plan on building another and another, hopefully, but it's still not going to cover everything. We got to have more processors, and then also another big thing is the laws need to be clearer. It's so confusing, and we want to encourage farmers to grow this stuff, not to not grow this stuff because this is too complicated. And as we all know, they're still trying to figure it out. So I think once everything lines up, we're going to be creating, something that's sustainable and long term.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the question. Just follow. It's two-part. I mean, where does it stand? I think I often look and drive to our facilities and our farms, and I drive through miles and miles and miles of corn. And I almost want to just rename my company Not Corn, because that's really it. I mean, we are monoculturing the world with corn, and now corn has been, they're able to make synthetic fibers with it, so it's going to replace cotton. And so that's the imperative here, right? And all of this corn is the same genetic makeup. And when you look at diseases and climate change and stuff, the last 2 years in Williamson County were declared a disaster zone by FEMA. And that's because we've just backed ourselves into this corner with corn. Now cotton, which is a cash crop, much like hemp, and to talk about processing, I mean, between where our farm is specifically 12 miles from downtown Taylor, there are 3 old cotton gins, not including the one in Taylor, right? So these facilities used to be set up basically within a day's ride of a wagon, or your tractor could get it there. And so that's where we need to really proliferate the processing. But what I'm more so doing now that we've kind of got things moving and ag takes time is all of what hemp has done so far has been bootstrapped and has been private money as far as I know. I don't think there's been certainly no federal support, no state support.
There's been a little
on
the grant side.
I haven't got any.
Well, no,
we haven't seen any.
There's been a little, but you're correct in that.
Yeah.
That's
So, yeah, and so I mean, I'm more so becoming a finance bro, and we're just running numbers, raising money, trying to get people to recognize this as a viable future industry.
Yeah, well, Serg, you touched on one thing that's getting farmers to adopt this crop. And it's been very challenging since the 2014 Farm Bill basically started to open up the gate. There was when that was signed by Obama, it allowed states to set up these pilot programs to start growing for research and commercialization and so forth. And then the 2018 Farm Bill that Trump signed opened up the gateway to here's what hemp is, and now it's a federally legal crop. And with that, it legalized all cannabinoids as well. And just a little back history, hemp was always this thing that was fiber and grain. It doesn't get you high. This is what it does. And the other side of that plant, the flowering part, was marijuana, and it's all cannabis. So you got hemp and marijuana, it's all cannabis, but hemp was fiber and grain, and the flowers and the cannabinoids was basically marijuana, as long as it was over 0.3% THC. And so without getting too technical, the 2018 Farm Bill provides this definition where all parts of the plant, as long as it's under this limit of 0.3 THC, is industrial hemp, or just the word hemp. Industrial has been dropped from it. With that has created policy and regulatory issues which have just compounded year after year after year. 2019, since the passage of the Farm Bill, we registered like 575,000 acres. We grew like 275,000 acres. There was a huge, huge supply of biomass, most of it grown for CBD, which complicated the market for trying to grow true industrial hemp, fiber, and grain. These people that, we want to grow grain for food security and protein, and it's an ingredient. We want to grow fiber for, like Serg said, textiles and building materials and bioplastics and paper pulps and soil regeneration, lost circulation materials, all these cool things that can help better the environment, better human health, better planetary health. But we're at this stage right now in the industry with hemp and hemp derivatives that are now intoxicating, and marijuana that's recreationally legal in 20-some states and medically legal in 40 states. And it's become this conundrum to try to separate all these lanes. And farmers are like, what the hell? Why would I want to get into this mess? Because with that language in the Farm Bill and the way the regulations are set up, farmers have to do an FBI background check, and they have to go through all this testing. So if I'm a corn farmer,
Hence losing 1,000 acres.
yeah, a corn farmer or a soy farmer or alfalfa or hay or whatever, and it's like, hey, I'd like to rotate hemp in. I know that it does great things. I think I can make more money per acre. There's a processor down the road that's going to, contract this and provide me the seed, and it's, I want to do it. But why do I want to do it? Because it just sounds like a huge pain in the butt. And so at our event a couple weeks ago, the 11th annual NOCO Hemp Expo, we had a big policy discussion, and we've been doing this for a couple years. And we are optimistic. I'm not going to use the word hopeful. Hopeful was used before, and I guess the word hope doesn't really get anything. There's determination and there's optimistic. I am optimistic that sometime this year, whether it's the Farm Bill, a standalone bill, or an executive order, will clearly define industrial hemp, fiber and grain, and move it over here and treat it like corn and soy and provide insurance, and you don't have to do all this testing, and if it's certified genetics, and it'll be treated just like any other ag crop. Cannabinoids will be pulled over here, and that will have multiple lanes, whether they're intoxicating, whether they're non-intoxicating for therapeutic like CBD and so forth, or whether they're it's going to be a dispensary model, or it's going to be medical and go pharmaceutical. So this is a complicated plant, but there's tremendous opportunity long term. And so the next question is, looking at where the market is today, fiber, grain, cannabinoids, where do you see the most opportunities for people to jump into the market, let's say here in the next 12 months? And what can happen over the course of the next 12 to 24 months to really elevate the opportunities for those markets?
Grain, food. Chickens are always hungry. Cows are always hungry. People. It's something I think we're kind of zeroing in on. And Serg said it, we definitely need seeds, and we have seeds that work, but we need a domestic seed source. and developing that domestic seed supply is going to be critical. National security, also just supply chain regulation. So yeah.
I think you're right. I agree with you totally. We're under one umbrella right now, and it needs to be separated for obvious reasons. We can't knock the CBD market because they're the ones that put a spike. They're the ones that put everything back on the map. Okay, so when I think about that, saying it's just, and you say grain, yeah, I say fiber and grain. And we need to work together, whether we're different industries. If you're grain, we still need to work together, because it needs to be, the success is going to be because of a collaborative effort, and not because. And I think working together, we're going to be a stronger network. And obviously, the industry is not where it needs to be or where we want it to be right now, but it's going to take time. And finding the seed, like he said, infrastructure, education, and there's going to be so many things that we have to look at and have to fix. Insurance, we got to be treated like a regular commodity, and all that's going to take time. I have faith in the system. Sometimes I don't, but I at the end of the day, I do. And I think that it's going to get there. It's going to be we have to make it easier for everybody, because we don't want to scare people away. And, and people always talk about, it's a marijuana plant. So, it's not. It's just it's marijuana's sober cousin, and that's what it is. And so once we got the facility up and running, you bring people in there to take a tour, they're sold because they finally see what's going on. And it's no different than cotton, really. It's sustainable. And I think it's not where it needs to be right now, but I think it's going to get there.
Yeah, I think these guys took a look at my notes, because in my notes it says grain and fiber. I think, Morris, that's where it's going. And that is a sustainable, replicatable. There's a lot of moving parts with that, especially within legislation, making sure that happens, seed selection, a lot of bringing what we need to do to give farmers confidence right here into the states. So yeah, I agree with these guys. A lot of work needs to be done, but grain and fiber, and then you plug in the processing piece, you plug in proper legislation, all those ingredients are part of a successful recipe that should happen now today.
Well, and I'll just add to, I think all of our goals here, like one of my initial goals was to just do hemp toilet paper. And so I called Georgia Pacific, a year into this. I'm like, hey, we're going to grow a bunch of hemp. Would y'all take it? Naively. And they're like, yeah, sure. We'll do a 5% blend. We need, it's some ridiculous number, 750 tons a day or something, or a week for the next 10 years. It's like, okay, well, we got to work on that. But cellulose and aggregating material and the cannabinoids through the fiber and grain, linking that and aggregating it for things like paper and plastics, I think, is where it can all come together. So.
Yeah, and she said collaboration is needed. Working together works, whether you're on the grain side, the fiber side, the cannabinoid side. And I've been preaching this and bringing all of these folks to NOCO Hemp Expo for years. And there's definitely tension between the industries, with the fiber and grain folks thinking, we just want to do this. And, the cannabinoids and the CBD and the intoxicants are taking up all the oxygen in the room with legislators and policymakers and regulators. And we have to get this separated. And I do feel confident and optimistic, based on things that are going on, that this is going to happen. And this is one great thing about hemp, is it's always been supported bipartisan, like Democrats and Republicans both support it. There's not a wedge here. There is a wedge with the intoxicating side, because Republicans have typically not been very embracing of marijuana or getting high and that sort of thing. But I do think, based on this new administration, where things are at, Trump looks at things a little bit differently, and if Trump buys into something, everybody generally falls in line. And he with his America First, Make America Great Again platform, if presented correctly, can see that hemp can truly be something that provides things here in America that can help with manufacturing, help keeping things local. It's an exportable crop as well, good for trade, but we can build manufacturing through it here. We can build houses, we can do bioplastics, it can go into automotive industry for car paneling and a variety of other things. Did you have a question?
Very vibrant business, or an industry, I should say, 100 years ago. And also, wasn't the Declaration of Independence written on hemp paper?
The draft of the Declaration was. And the first paper that was ever created in China was made out of hemp.
Yeah, what happened?
I'd like to tell you a little story there. It was called World War I, and the DuPont family saw that making nylon strings and ropes for the barges and boats was being made by hemp. So it was too much of a threat to the chemical petroleum industry, so the DuPont family basically shut down the whole production of hemp. So.
And so did the pharmaceutical industry as well. But when the whole pharmacology thing started to happen in the 30s, and the industries aligned, and this conspiratorial or not, there's certainly evidence that shows that cannabis itself is very therapeutic. It's been used for medicine for thousands of years. All parts of the plant for building materials, for food, for sails, for ropes, for clothing. It's been probably the most used agricultural crop up until 1900. So it's got a long, vibrant history, and industrialization changed it. Oil and gas, timber industry, pharmaceutical industry. You can kind of go check the boxes of all big industry and say all of those things had an effect on hemp getting banned, cannabis getting banned, and now it wasn't in certain parts of the world. I mean, China's been using it forever, although they don't embrace intoxicants, but they've been growing fiber hemp forever and food hemp forever, and that's why they're the leaders still on the planet today.
Real quick, before we do questions anymore, I just want to, the title of this, Hemp's Role in Modern Agriculture. I mean, this is modern agriculture. Tell me where there is, again, corn innovation or new cotton gins being built, or anybody doing anything with agricultural manufacturing. You're looking at it up here. And, I mean, call it what you want. It's not corn. And we're doing it.
And it's not soy either.
Not soy either. Yeah.
But I would like to compliment a quick story on this specific question. And first of the year, we were took a phone call from one of the largest laboratories in Houston that inspects and analyzes oil going out on the ships. And when we toured their facility, I was amazed that the lead C-level executives were there. Some of them were, and their lead engineers were completely in the know on the difference between the use of the plant for CBD or THC versus the industrial hemp uses. And they were excited for us to go down there because there's the application on the scientific side of what this plant can do. And so these guys are just salivating for what they can do in the technical space using hemp and the processors to process it properly. So what I want to share with you is I witnessed a machine that plasma free floated in air. There was a ball of plasma, and it fit on a dining room table. So if you think plasma, how hot does plasma have to be? How do you get it to float in midair? And it was captured in a box that literally would fit on a dining room table. Why do I say all of this? Because they looked at me, and it was the last piece of equipment they showed me. And they said, we believe some of the properties of hemp can help make this better and smaller. So they're doing research that is mind-boggling, cutting edge, to Lucas's point, now, today, in modern agriculture. So if you go to explain that to a farmer, this is why, it could be a little mind-blowing, but if we keep it simple and say, we've got a puzzle piece in place for you to grow this as a rotational crop, adds income, and if you're curious, here's where it's going. And it would just blow their mind that it can be used in so many aspects. So it's awesome to get those calls from that industry.
For sure.
Do you have time for a quick question?
Yeah, so what do we got? Do we got like 3 minutes left? Okay. Oh, that went quick.
I'm just curious about the advocacy side. A friend of mine, Patrick Atagi, is like the president of the Industrial Hemp Council.
National Industrial Hemp Council of America. I work with Patrick.
Okay, good. It sounds like you guys you're talking about organizing and working together. In Washington, who is your champion? How are you getting legislation kind of introduced and moved through the system?
So that's been a problem because you have NIHC, you've got the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, you've got the National Hemp Association, and you've got a variety of other organizations. And one thing that we've attempted to do the last several years is get this associations leaders group. And we had meetings at the last 2 NOCOs where you get all the kind of the talking heads of the organizations, the Patrick Atagis, Jonathan Millers, Jeff Whalings, and as many people to align on messaging as possible. And then you've got the marijuana side of things, and there was a big call between all the marijuana organizations and the hemp organizations yesterday that I was on the call, and we're trying to align the messaging, but it's a problem because legislators say, well, who should we listen to? Because you guys are all over the board. There's not one united voice. And as Patrick Atagi says, working together works. Maybe that's why you brought him up, because that's a thing that he always says, but it's true. And so generally we agree on like 90% of the things that should happen with this and the other 10%. And so we're really making a concerted effort to focus on what we agree on and then just work out the details on those other things. But again, that's why I feel optimistic that things are going to happen this year. As crazy and as chaotic as things are, and as certain things burn to the ground, I think that we'll see an opportunity for hemp to be able to rebuild a lot of those in the coming 3 to 5 to 10 years with guys like this and other guys around the country that are doing similar things and have similar mindsets and initiatives that we're all working on.
I just want to make one comment. We all know what this plant can do and what it can be used for. And we go to so many shows, and there's the break of hempcrete, and there's the insulation sample, and there's the hardwood for. Yeah, it can be used for all that stuff. But we need to quit making samples and start freaking doing it, And we need to find these people, and a lot of them are still in the R&D process, and that's fine. But we're done with samples. People come to me and say, I want to trial 2 acres. I'm done with trialing. I'm planting 15,000. I know what works for me. I don't need 2 acres. I need 2,000 acres. And so that's what we all know it's a great plant. We all know what it can do, but we need to start getting busy.
And I'm going to add here that most of the big industries, plastics industry, automotive industry, construction industry, paper industry, are willing to adopt hemp into their supply chain if we could provide the materials. And the thing that's holding us up is policy. If we got clear policy, farmers will grow it if they know that they've got an offtake and they're going to make money. But it's a chicken and egg thing. And we're not quite there, but I'm confident that we're going to get there. So
I have a question for you. It's right in line with what you're talking about. I'm Lauren LeBou. I'm a sustainability strategist for American Excelsior, which I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we're headquartered right in Arlington. And we make wood fiber products and foam products. Agriculture erosion blankets and evap cooling pads are some of our biggest product lines. And came onto the team because right now we're doing a lot of stuff with aspen wood fibers, or we're importing coconut fibers, which you all know tariffs are insane. So that's a very right now problem. But for the past couple of years, I've been doing research in New Mexico with Los Alamos Labs. They won't touch hemp fibers. Every other fiber they will. So I understand your frustration and the confusion, because I look at hemp the same way you guys do, as this is a commodity project. I mean, there's a lot of CBD growers. New Mexico has a lot of waste, so I want to talk to you guys about processing facilities and what you have going on there. But I also, I mean, we're in manufacturing and we're looking to get out of R&D. We want to look at fiber blends. We want to bring things here. The importing stuff is crazy when we have so much hemp naturally available right here. So I have a couple of questions for you. As far as the processing goes, did you guys have to innovate to, like hemp fibers, I don't know if you guys have seen them all dried out in the fields, but they're a little gnarly. So did you guys have to innovate like the processing of that, or did you borrow from the cotton manufacturing or processing setup, or what went on there?
I'm sure you do it differently than we do.
There's a variety of decortication technology. There's companies all over the world,
Cool.
and there's other new technologies. Pulse wave, which this gentleman David is using, that processes hemp fibers, separates it from the stalk, the fiber, and the hurd.
Totally.
But I think it's different. It's different.
Okay.
Because we'll go through the whole process of decortication, and then we come out with a great, fiber, and you give it to somebody, a textile company, and they say, "Oh, that's too long," but then you give it to somebody else and that's just too short.
Sure.
So everybody's got their own different ways.
For
You
sure.
like red, I like blue.
Yeah.
So or it's too rough. Okay, so we put it through cottonization. It comes out it's soft as cotton, stronger than cotton, and some people like it, some people don't. So it's finding what those guys are trying to find out what they want to work with. Like I said earlier, R&D. They're still trying to figure that out. I will invite you to Wichita Falls.
I'm coming.
and anytime, and just give one of us a call
Yeah.
and run you through our facility, just so he can see what you would be very impressed with what's going on over there.
Perfect. And then this might be a question more for Lucas, but I know you talked about hemp fiber and like toilet paper blends. I know you're in this chicken and egg. Like, who are your biggest customers right now? Like, how are you getting more farmers to take the chance to plant hemp, and how are you growing that? Like, do you have buyers right now, or are you taking a risk?
It's certainly a risk, yeah. And we are the bank and the insurance, and it's also like, oh, are you going to provide the seeds, or are they going to provide the seeds? But chicken and egg is who's paying the bills right now? Selling to chicken farmers and egg producers for grain. So, and yes, so, and then our byproduct from that is what we're using for hempcrete and composites and building materials. Yeah, and as far as innovating goes, I mean, yeah, we've imported a few pieces of equipment, but a lot of it is like bespoke, working with old equipment, new equipment. And
Well, that's where Eli Whitney right now would be given a huge round of applause to utilizing the cotton gin in this industry, taking existing farm equipment, adapting it to hemp. And it's amazing for farmers to look at their seed drill and knock off some rust and dust and see a hemp setting on there. So
Yeah,
that's
you can
amazing.
definitely utilize equipment that's already out there and convert it and do that.
Awesome. Well, let's give a cheers to this fine panel and the future that's now for industrial hemp.